All righty. So 1 in 8 women will develop a thyroid disorder in her lifetime. So 20 million Americans are estimated to have a thyroid disorder, but 60% won't know that they have the condition. Some of you, if you know you have a thyroid disorder, you might have found out years ago, or you might just have some symptoms that I'll describe in a little bit that might lead you to believe whether or not you've actually had some labs tested that are looking abnormal or not. Women are 5 to 8 times more likely to develop a thyroid condition than men. So let's talk about why that is. I'm figuring we have mostly women on the call tonight, but except for my dad, my faithful supporter. Women are more likely to get not only a thyroid condition, but autoimmunity in general, because a couple of reasons. Thyroid conditions can be linked to other hormone disorders that tend to flare up during times of stress to a woman's body, like pregnancy and menopause, and also, related to some of the other hormones like the birth control pill, that kind of thing. We're also more likely to get an autoimmune condition, which the upside of that, we tend to have a stronger immune response than men. So we might be able to fight off viruses a little bit better. And that could be a reason why maybe we should have a little more sympathy for the men in our life when they're sick and seem to be at death's door. But that's a little background. Signs that you might have Hashimoto's disease. So what is Hashimoto's exactly? It's the autoimmune condition that leads to a thyroid problem in a lot of cases. And it's named after the man that discovered it. And some of these symptoms, of course, they can be also related to several other things. And so your own doctor or yourself, you might misdiagnose yourself, or you might be told that it's related to just getting older or being stressed. But things like fatigue, weight gain, when you've got dry skin, constipated, dry, brittle hair, joint and muscle pain, difficulty getting pregnant. A lot of these are opposite if you know someone with Graves' disease, which is autoimmune hyperthyroid.
Don't give me no more, puppy.
So hypothyroidism is when your thyroid slows down your metabolism. It doesn't produce enough thyroid hormone, and that's usually what happens with Hashimoto's. Graves is autoimmune hyperthyroid, meaning that your thyroid really speeds up and you get the opposite symptoms of anxiety and tremors and things like feeling hot all the time, really short, light menstrual cycle, that type of thing. That can also happen with Hashimoto's when your immune system is really launching an attack on the thyroid and your hormones start dumping out of the thyroid gland all at once. So you can kind of swing back and forth, which is why it's confusing a lot of times when you get symptoms of one and then symptoms of the other. So root causes of Hashimoto's, it does have to do with your body's immune response. So if there's one thing that you do want to remember about the thyroid, in over 90% of the cases in the US, hypothyroidism is linked to this autoimmune condition. So it's actually the root cause, or the problem is not the thyroid itself, but the immune system gone a little bit rogue. And some of these root causes that are listed include having a family history of autoimmune disease. I have that in my family, and that's definitely one of my root causes. And then things like leaky gut, which you've probably heard that described before. I'll go into it in a little more depth. Vitamin deficiencies, adrenal gland, adrenals are the little glands that regulate cortisol and stress levels and that type of thing, sex hormone dysfunction, and then blood sugar roller coasters. There are several of these causes of flare-ups listed that I will, I'll describe these as part of my story. Anything from stress, physical trauma, nutrient deficiencies, as I mentioned, hormone imbalances, depleted the standard American diet, exposure to endocrine disrupting chemicals, which can be anything from your environment and workplace to, plastic water bottles, things like that. Exposure to heavy metals. That's also a cause that's not well known, but if you've got, several silver fillings, or if you've been exposed to mercury or lead in the past, that can definitely also trigger these autoimmune reactions. And then intestinal permeability. So that goes back to the leaky gut and just the things coming at us from the toxins in our environment. And stress triggers intestinal permeability as well. So as far as what triggers the immune system, leaky gut, I just want to mention that in a nutshell is when you have these proteins in your small intestine, in your gut, that trigger a release, and it's called zonulin. Gluten, unfortunately, is a big trigger for that, but some of the other things I mentioned, like stress, is a big one too. But that allows the little junctions in the walls of our intestines to start to open up a little bit, and then undigested or partially digested food particles start to escape into the bloodstream, and then they are marked as foreign by the body. And so our immune system, like a good immune system is supposed to do to launch an attack on a foreign body that it doesn't recognize, starts to attack itself. So there's lots of autoimmune conditions. You can have an attack on whatever gland the immune system chooses. So with Crohn's, it's your gut itself. With the thyroid, of course, it's the thyroid gland. Rheumatoid arthritis, it's the joints. So your body selects an organ to attack, and then you've got that autoimmune condition. And unfortunately, once you have one autoimmune condition, if we don't heal and repair the leaky gut and some of these other triggering factors, then you can progress to having multiple autoimmune conditions. So that's the bad news. The good news is that it's definitely possible to kind of ceasefire this attack and heal the gut and allow everything to calm down and be able to start to reverse that condition. So every cell in the body depends on thyroid hormones for regulation of their metabolism. A disturbance in thyroid function can therefore cause widespread, noticeable health problems. So you're definitely not, it's not all in your head if you're having some of those symptoms that were mentioned on previous slides, as far as anything from, feeling cold and tired all the time, gaining weight, brain fog, just don't feel like yourself. And, if you've gone to the doctor and there hasn't been a clear answer, even the standard labs may not quite get to the exact cause of the problem. So how I ended up becoming a functional medicine practitioner, I'm a physical therapist by trade, and I discovered I had Hashimoto's a few years ago, and I'm going to dig into my story in a little bit, but I spent the last couple of years studying functional medicine because I was interested in trying to heal my own thyroid condition. And, so now, as far as these tests that are listed, there are some very thorough functional medicine labs that anything from, uncovering food sensitivities to heavy metals, to the stress hormones, things that are normally looked at as pretty baseline normal on a standard lab. Functional medicine labs can pick up some of these things and then create a plan to help get at the triggers of the thyroid problem. We tend to become sensitive to certain foods, and some are triggers more than others, but these are some of these tests that are available. So the thyroid panel itself, I mean, if you have had a thyroid problem, and if you've had labs run, chances are you've gotten the standard TSH level. TSH is the thyroid stimulating hormone. And if it runs opposite to how your thyroid is actually functioning, so if your TSH is high, then that indicates that you have a hypo or low functioning thyroid. And then if your TSH is really low, it indicates a thyroid that's kind of overproducing. And the reason for that is because the thyroid pumps out the hormone and distributes it to all the different cells of your body. So if it's trying to pump out a lot, it's because it's really stressed and trying to keep up, and eventually, as the autoimmune attack continues, the thyroid continues to start to burn out. So the TSH though doesn't tell the full picture, because there's active thyroid hormones that actually have to get converted. The inactive T4 has to become converted into the active T3 hormone. And in times of stress, T3, the T4, sorry, the inactive hormone can be converted into another called reverse T3 that doesn't do any good in terms of where the hormones need to go. It actually is unusable by the body, and then that blocks the active thyroid hormone that's circulating in our tissues. So not only, you definitely want to ask your doctor for a full panel of not only the TSH, but the free and available T3 and T4 that's usable by the body's cells. And also the antibody level, because in order to diagnose an autoimmune condition against the thyroid, the TPO or thyroid peroxidase antibodies need to be elevated, and that would show that there's an active attack against the thyroid gland. Not in all cases, in probably 95% of the cases, you've got antibodies against your thyroid, but if you don't have antibodies, it could be just a little bit too early, and it doesn't mean that you for sure don't have Hashimoto's. So a good quote by Dr. Mitra Ray: "Your immune system, in order to work properly, needs good nutrition." So one of the keys, if you are overwhelmed and not sure exactly where to start with healing the thyroid and getting the immune system under control, just keep in mind that 80% of your immune system is actually located in the gut. So anything that we do to heal that leaky gut, which if you have an autoimmune condition, that goes hand in hand with leaky gut. So if we have not taken steps to repair our gut, then the autoimmune condition continues and progresses. So that's a key part. And of course, nutrition is, if you Google ways to heal your immune system, chances are, good nutrition and a wide variety of fruits and vegetables will be at the top of the list. So here's my eat this, not that slide. The slide on the left is definitely ideal. The slide on the right looks a lot more like, homes and just the standard American diet, especially, when we've got kids. We know we want to buy things that our kids we'll eat, but the reality is, if we purchase healthy food, chances are we'll eat healthy food. So the decisions start right where we're shopping, and loading up on, those 7 to 13 servings of fresh fruits and vegetables per day. It goes a long way to healing the body's immune system. Let's talk about antioxidants for a second. So we are exposed to toxins in our environment all the time. And even so, free radicals are these molecules that start to cause cellular damage. And even good things like exercise cause oxidative stress, and can, damage our cells. So that's like the side of this apple that's been browned and been exposed to the oxidative stress. We need antioxidants in order to neutralize those free radicals and keep the apple, looking like the other side, where it's nice and crisp and fresh. So another big key with the thyroid, and just as far as the function of the liver, I won't hit all of these, but the liver does a lot for us. It works really hard to process all of the toxins that we're exposed to on a daily basis. Notice the liver converts your inactive thyroid hormone to the active thyroid hormone. So if you've got plenty of inactive T4, and by the way, T4 is the Synthroid medication that is most commonly prescribed to help with hypothyroidism and give you a little bit more active thyroid hormone. But if your liver is not converting that right, if it's not allowing it to be used by the body as T3, then you might have a normal level of T4, but you might still not feel very well. And that's where, you and the doctor need to make a plan for, how you can improve conversion by the liver. And that's where nutrients and detoxification comes in as well. The liver also breaks down nutrients from food to produce energy, and it, at the bottom here, it removes toxic substances we consume from the environment, like the pesticides, herbicides, medication byproducts, the plastics that we're exposed to. So the liver can get backlogged. It's sometimes, it's like the bathtub that fills up and it just can't get all the toxins out. So we've got to help it along with some good liver support. So including, I think my next slide has some liver support, but we need liver protection, as I mentioned. All of these things that are common to our life, the allergies and food intolerances, deficient soil, stress, alcohol, coffee and energy drinks, processed foods, those all tax and overburden our liver, and make it hard for it to keep up and do its job of getting those toxins out. So liver cleansers, there's lots of good ones. They're found in nature, and they're ways that we can detoxify the body without doing, a harsh cleanse, or, but just gently through food. But how many of these would you say you ate today? It's hard to get that quantity and variety to really allow the liver to be running at its peak. So best foods for Hashimoto's or thyroid disease. Definitely plenty of organic vegetables and herbs, starchy vegetables. Bone broth has some of the building blocks of the cells, the proteins that that we need to repair the gut. Fermented foods is another great way to repair the gut because it's got the good probiotics in it that help balance the bad bacteria. Healthy fats, wild caught seafood. It says tuna in moderation because of and same with, some of the higher mercury content seafood, but definitely we want our fatty fish and omegas in order to, help build the cells as well. And then pasture raised meats, low sugar fruits. Fruits are definitely not the enemy. We do need carbs in the diet, and fruit's a great way to get the carbs, unless you have been diagnosed with yeast overgrowth. That's the only reason to possibly limit the sugar from fruit, temporarily, but overall, fruit should be part of a healthy diet. So 10 most helpful interventions for Hashimoto's. And this is from one of the mentors that I learned from, who wrote a book called Hashimoto's Protocol. But if, you might not be a big fan of this, but go gluten-free is number one. As I mentioned, gluten triggers that zonulin release in the gut, and that's what causes, or contributes to leaky gut a lot of the time. And that's not necessarily, if you have celiac, that's another autoimmune condition where, it does damage the gut villi. But even in, non-celiac cases, if you have autoimmunity, it's a good idea to at least try cutting out gluten for about 30 days and see how you feel. Another reason being that the gluten molecule is actually bioidentical to, or very similar to the thyroid molecule. So it's a case of mistaken identity where gluten can actually, when your body launches attack against gluten, it also misidentifies and attacks the thyroid gland too. And then selenium is a key nutrient for, the thyroid to be able to perform at its best. Paleo type diet, that goes along with some of these other ones, eliminating, at least for the time being, some of these inflammatory foods, and then adding them back in one at a time. So that's something we do in functional medicine, is elimination diet, and then not to permanently take things away, but to heal the gut and then see what the body can tolerate adding back in. So that's grains, dairy. Going sugar-free doesn't mean loading up on artificial sweeteners, but taking away all of the teaspoons and teaspoons of added sugar that are in a processed diet, and just, going with a little bit of natural sweeteners. And then omega-3 fatty acids, again, great for the cells, works on, brain, heart, skin, all the different building blocks of our body. Vitamin D is, it's crucial for hormones, immunity. Definitely, it's hard to get this time of year, so from the sun. So optimize vitamin D level by getting a baseline test and then supplementing there. And then low glycemic foods, so your body's not on a roller coaster, but it's staying as steady as possible during the day. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I ended up, starting to even know what Hashimoto's is, and how I ended up getting much more into health and nutrition. I've listed these again, the Hashimoto's flare-ups, because a lot of them are part of my story. In my 20s, I started with emotional, physiological stress in several ways. I lost my mom to ovarian cancer when I was in my early 20s. And, so then I also had a car accident when I was 21, which, so that some of that stress led to some overexercise. I was running constantly. I was not fueling my body well. I would have, if you asked me at the time, I would have said I was healthy, but I was really pretty run down and, nutritionally depleted. So far I've got, the top 3 on the list. And then that led to some hormone imbalances. I was diagnosed with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, which meant that it made getting pregnant extremely difficult. I was trying to look into different infertility causes, and that's when I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism in my late 20s. And so at that point, I was finally able to get pregnant through fertility medication, but my thyroid continued to be more and more off during the next decade or so. And by the time I was pregnant with our 4th child, I had a pretty raging case of autoimmunity. And I finally did discover through an antibody test that I had Hashimoto's, but the doctor basically said, well, it's autoimmune, not much you can do about it. We'll just monitor your TSH and adjust the medication as needed. And so I ended up on a super high level of the Synthroid medication when I was pregnant with my 4th child, and just feeling lousy, just feeling run down and depleted, not the normal pregnancy tired, but also the symptoms like the joint pain and the insomnia and gut symptoms, things like that. So I was trying to experiment on myself. I discovered some of the natural solutions to thyroid, and I basically ended up the supplement queen. I was probably up to, 15 or so, just trying to heal myself and not really making any definite gains. I didn't have a roadmap to follow. And, then I was told by a dear friend about a supplement that actually was concentrated fruit and veggie capsules. And she was telling me that there was research behind these on the immune system and even on ovarian cancer. So my ears perked up at that. And I decided, well, I've tried everything else, and I might as well just see what some extra nutrition can do, not really having high hopes, but not sure, what else to turn to. And so I started it, and then a few months in there, I ended up discovering that not only did my seasonal allergies go away as my immune system started to balance and get stronger, but I had irregular cycles for most of my adult life. And 4 or 5 months in, I got a cycle, and it has been regular ever since then. And that's a sign of that the nutritional deficiencies, my body was actually getting what it needed to repair itself and the hormones. And then the next thing I noticed was that my thyroid, the labs were getting better, and I actually was having to reduce my thyroid medication, and my antibodies started to come down, and just things were trending in the reverse direction of what I was warned by the doctor, that it would just keep getting worse and that my thyroid would start to burn out. So at that point, I had all the kids, all 4 kids, and my husband on the Juice Plus fruits and veggie powders too. And we stopped, for the most part, getting sick. If we ever do get sick, it's very mild and very rare.
Okay.
And
well, I'm not going to do that.
Little guys are
good for you.
craving more fruits and vegetables, and everybody is just thriving. And so the main thing, besides all the health changes, is that I found a community of people, a healthy living community that was able to support and encourage me, and just provide for all of us, when we try to make health changes, we might start off strong, but then it doesn't really stick, or we don't have a roadmap. But when you have the community and the accountability, it becomes so much easier to stick to your goals and to figure out, where you're going. And if you make a goal to, especially if you're trying to cut certain things out of your diet or add other things, to have a tribe like that is a really great thing. So I decided that I was going to join as a partner and start sharing with others because of all the just all the health changes that I'd noticed. And so the community and the extra income that I'd also, that helped to first to offset my family's costs, and then to start building a way that, because besides being a physical therapist, I also homeschool my kids and work around that. So it provides me with a flexible income that I can do from anywhere, anytime. So I've got a couple of other friends on here who have thyroid stories as well, and I'd like to invite them to share their stories, and then I'll explain a little bit more about what Juice Plus is and how it's helpful as far as the nutritional deficiencies with thyroid disease. So Erin, are you with us? Would you be able to share? Let me check. Oh, okay. So Erin is she's a NICU nurse, and she is at work tonight and thought she might be able to steal away for a minute, but I just got a text that she's not able to. That's okay. Jen, are you there? Are you able to share?
Yep. Can you hear me?
I can. Yes. Thank you.
Great. No, thank you so much. And for everybody on the phone, gosh, I wish I had met Amy 5 years ago, because in the last 15 minutes, that was 5 years of research that I had to do on my own. So I just really appreciate that you've pulled this all together, and what a gift to everyone here. My name is Jen, and I've kind of figured out about my thyroid issue 5 years ago. I have 3 children, 9, 7, and 5. And after my 5-year-old was born, I felt really tired. And I think for everybody on the phone, if you have a thyroid condition or an autoimmune or really anything, it's just really easy to dismiss symptoms over time, and so I would just encourage you, if you're on this call because you feel like maybe something's off, there probably is. And I think it's good to start to keep track of that. So for me, I was really tired. I noticed that my hair was kind of thinning. The baby weight just wasn't coming off after this baby, but it was easy to be like, well, I've had 3 kids. Of course I'm tired. Of course these things are happening. But I just didn't feel myself. And so I went for an annual physical, and they do a routine thyroid panel there. And that's where my doctor let me know that my thyroid numbers were way off and something was going on. So fortunately or unfortunately, other people in my family had thyroid issues and knew an endocrinologist. So from there, I just went straight to the endocrinologist and figured, I'm not going to mess around. Let's just see what's going on. And so I was lucky enough to get the test that Amy was referring to right away. So there's a couple of metrics you want to think about when you are trying to find out what's going on. But for me, the TSH, T3, T4, and also the thyroid antibodies just kind of signified this is definitely what's happening. It is Hashimoto's. And what the doctor told me that day, I think was like a pivot point for me in terms of how I think about my health. And she said, well, you have this autoimmune disease, and unfortunately, once you have one, you get more. So just expect that you could have rheumatoid arthritis, you could have celiac. It's just kind of going to be more from here. And here I am at 35 years old with 3 little kids thinking, well, that's certainly not an option. I mean, there's got to be somebody in the world that has figured this out. And she said, I don't know, really, it's just the medication. And I did go on the medication, and it did help. And I would say I felt like 50% back. But that's when I started Googling, right? Like, who has figured out how to heal themselves from Hashimoto's? And to Amy's point, and to my dismay, I found over and over stories of gut healing and nutrition. And at that point, I just felt like, well, what are my options? I might as well try it. And the first thing that you hear is gluten-free, and that just felt overwhelming to me. The whole list of things felt overwhelming. So I made a deal with myself, and I would encourage anybody on here to think about this, to add before you subtract. So if you're going to take things out of your diet and you're going to try to eat differently and live differently, really think about what you enjoy and put that in first. And for me, that was ice cream. And so I bought every dairy-free ice cream that was out there, gluten-free. Now, you have to pay attention to sugar. This was just a starting point. But I just knew I needed a fail-safe to have something that I felt like would be an option for me so I could get through this. And it was just a tiny baby step that helped me take the leap to do more and more things. And sure enough, I mean, it really only took a week without gluten for my gut to feel better, for my energy to feel better. And so if the medicine got me like 50% to feeling better, changes in my diet got me to about 80%. And so I was doing all of this for about 4 years when a friend introduced me to Juice Plus, and knowing that I was trying so hard every day to get 8+ servings of vegetables in my system, and knowing how hard that was, I saw this as like, oh wait, it's just food, and this is exactly what I'm trying to do. This is a no-brainer. Of course I'm doing this. And it just made it easier, right? Like you just have a baseline of nutrition that you know you're going to get every day, and it just made it easier. So doing that, I would say that I feel 100% better, and maybe even more than before, because I don't really know how long I had this condition. I know when I found out, but I'm not sure how long I was living with it. And I'm happy to say that my thyroid antibodies are not, they're in a normal range. And so I don't know that there's a healing or that you can say you're over a chronic condition like an autoimmune disease, but certainly the fact that those antibodies are not showing up for me just makes me feel like I've gotten this under control. And even when I heard about Juice Plus, it was a no-brainer for me. But I think the extra push for me was for my kids, because an autoimmune condition is genetic. There's a genetic component to it, even more so when you're female, and I have a daughter. And so I just felt like if I'm able to give them a little bit of an advantage and get this baseline in them every day, in addition to trying to eat well and do our best to manage other things, that just makes me feel so much better for what I'm able to provide for them. So that is my story, Amy. I appreciate the opportunity to share, and all of this information really, I mean, like I said, 5 years of me trying to figure this out on my own. And I think having it all here in one place, even if you need to go back and watch it again and kind of take note of things, is just so helpful. So I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Jen, so much. It's really encouraging to hear of other people who have started to heal their bodies, you know, and granted, like you said, it's a continuum, and you know, we all are looking for ways to feel better in our daily lives. It doesn't mean that, you know, all of our symptoms are going to completely go away, but we can move from a state of, you know, feeling unwell to a state of feeling just well and healthy and thriving and able to do the things we want to do and take care of our kids and help them, as you said, to, you know, hopefully not go on to have the same condition. So what are these exactly? You know, so what I started on was taking these, or, you know, eating these capsules, and there's a chewable version for kids that has the exact same nutrition, and it's listed on the left side. So every day I flood my body with this variety of nutrients, and it's whole foods. You know, it's the peel and all that they grind up, you know, take it from farmers that, you know, work with the highest quality farming practices. When the produce is ground up and then the water and sugar is removed, and you're left with this concentrated fruit and veggie produce, then that's encapsulated or put into a chewable, and, you know, that goes straight. It's very bioavailable. It's absorbable into the bloodstream pretty quickly. You know, your body doesn't have to work hard to digest it. I know for a lot of us, you know, if we've had gut and digestive issues from any type of autoimmune condition, then, you know, you don't want your gut to have to work harder to digest a bunch of, you know, things that is kind of rough on the stomach. So they also third party verify that what's on the label is actually in the bottle, and that there's no, you know, pesticides, herbicides, contaminants that are going to undo, you know, what we're trying to accomplish by eating lots of good fruits and vegetables. And then there's also shakes and bars, you know, that's the macronutrients. If the fruit and veggie capsules and chewables are the micronutrients, which is the fuel that our bodies need to perform at their best. You know, the macronutrients we're familiar with, the proteins, carbs, and fats. They have additional plant-based foods in them, and they're low glycemic, which means they're not going to send the blood sugar on a roller coaster. And, you know, they're with the shake mix, not only can you have a good smoothie any time of day, but you can also, you know, use it to bake with. Or, you know, my kids love the energy bites, pancakes. I use it for hot chocolate this time of year. So just lots of healthy snack options where we might be tempted to reach for something not so healthy. And then the Tower Garden is a vertical aeroponic growing system that also is a great catalyst or incentive, you know, to improve our healthy eating habits, because you can grow your own fruits and vegetables right on your patio or even inside with the grow lights, and not have to worry about, you know, how much time your produce at the grocery store spent traveling across the country and losing a lot of its nutrition. You know, and kids, you know, there's lots of Tower Gardens now in schools across the country, because we know that kids who take part in growing their own food are much more likely to pick it right off the Tower Garden and eat it. So that's also a great way to just all around, you know, get more produce into our diets. Through the Healthy Starts for Families program, kids can eat Juice Plus for free with a sponsoring adult. So anybody who cares about, you know, the child is active in their lives can sponsor a child to receive a free fruit and veggie supply of capsules or chewables. And the company, you know, definitely wants to see, you know, how kids are responding to all the extra produce in their diets. And the survey that the families fill out once a year, you know, is really encouraging, indicating that the kids were missing fewer days of school, drinking more water, you know, taking less medication, visiting the doctor less, that type of thing. And our family has experienced pretty much all of these over the past couple of years. So it's a good health insurance policy for our kids. And, you know, it's, as moms, you know, we know it's not easy to get our kids to eat enough fruits and vegetables. And, you know, so the joke in our house is, well, everything that's listed on that bottle, I can pile it up on your plate, or, you know, you can remember to take your health insurance. And, you know, they enjoy it anyway. It's just the older ones, it's just getting them to establish that habit. So, you know, this is the type of thing that you can eat any time of day, but connecting it with a habit like brushing your teeth, you know, helps make sure that you get it in your body every day. Juice Plus, you know, the products are basically just the fruit and veggie capsules and the macronutrients, the shakes and the bars, and the Tower Garden, and then the omega. I mentioned before how important omegas are for, you know, fatty acids are building blocks of so many of our organs and, you know, the cells that make them up. So there's an omega that is plant-based, and it's a variety of the omegas, the omega-3s, of course, but also 5, 6, 7, and 9. And I love to bite into them. They've got a great orange plant oil taste, and I can't imagine doing that with fish oil. And the vegan plant oil is much more sustainable, and the fish don't actually produce omegas. They get them from what they eat, so we can just bypass the fish. Juice Plus does not claim to cure any specific condition. It's just concentrated, powerful nutrition. And as I discovered through my health journey, I was missing a lot of those nutrients. I could think that I was healthy and fit because I was running marathons and doing CrossFit, but if I was fueling myself with a bagel and a cup of coffee, then I wasn't giving my body what it needed. So, and also the company has it's been researched by independent research groups at major universities around the world. And, it's the most thoroughly researched nutrition product in the world. So that, gives me also the confidence that what my body experienced is actually backed up by science, that there's been studies on the immune system, inflammation, oxidative stress, as I mentioned, protecting your DNA. And that's an important thing. We mentioned that heredity and genetics plays a role, but the exciting thing about epigenetics, it's a recent field talking about that your genetic switches that predispose you towards disease, those can be switched off by healthy lifestyle, healthy choices. So in a way, our genes are not our destiny, because we can influence which switches get turned on and off by, what we eat, and, the healthy amount of sleep, exercise, drinking enough water, that kind of thing. So I like this quote: "Every cell in your body will know there's a difference, even if you don't feel different," because you might, start eating these fruit and veggie powders and not feel different right away, but over time, what's happening inside your cells is definitely going to be evident to you, the way you feel, the way your skin looks, all of that kind of thing. And then that only gets better with time. And that's what I've noticed, that the changes that I experienced in a few weeks and then a few months just continued to compound over the last couple of years. This is what happens with traditional, diet or over exercising, which is really stressful to the thyroid. And probably a lot of us with a thyroid condition have tried to lose weight, in order to help the thyroid, or just because, okay, now I'm hypothyroid, having a hard time losing weight. It just keeps creeping on. And so, normally when you diet and exercise without proper nutrition, that stresses the body, because the fat is where all of the toxins are housed, so the fat protects the vital organs from the toxins, but when you burn fat, then that exposes organs to toxins, and you start to feel worse because the fat releases those toxins. So then you get that rebound effect, where you have this increase in fat retention and fat production, body's trying to protect itself. But as opposed to a cleanse, where you actually give the body the nutrients it needs to succeed, and then the shedding of fat happens because the body is able to get rid of the toxins much more efficiently. So then you have better overall health, less fat, more muscle, and no rebound effect with the yo-yo dieting. So speaking of community support, this is one that I love. It's actually going on right now, but our healthy living community does it about once a month. And it's called the Shred 10. And it's not meant to be a diet program. It's meant to shred unhealthy habits and then add healthier ones. These are the guidelines, and so you combine it with your Juice Plus capsules. Use the shakes as you can use them as a meal replacement or a snack. Drink plenty of water. Focus on sleep, and these are guidelines that you might look at the list and think, I'm not doing that, or that's too much, and and just focus on one or two of them, and then that's a great step in the right direction. And then maybe the next time the shred rolls around, you might focus on a couple more. So it's not an all or nothing. One of our mottos is progress, not perfection. So the Shred 10 journey, if you wanted to get involved next time, and it is a great shallow dive into some of the lifestyle changes that, such as giving up gluten and dairy. If you don't want to do it for a month, try it for 10 days, like the Shred program, because we've got lots of recipes, plant-based, so that are naturally gluten and dairy free, so that you're not feeling like you're going about it all on your own. And then you've got the nutrition from the Juice Plus capsules to support you. You've got the Facebook group, so lots of people are doing it together. And then after you're finished with the 10 days, there's guidelines for how to live it the rest of the month, where you don't have to be quite as regimented, but trying to figure out what lifestyle changes are going to stick, and whether or not, you want to continue with some of the dietary changes. But in any case, you gently detox the body, and then your body slowly starts to reset and feel much better, and that keeps the motivation going. So the Complete itself, it's made with a extremely high quality non-GMO water washed soy protein. And when I first started digging into, Hashimoto's and foods to give up and foods to keep, there was a lot of conflicting evidence about soy, but actually the research says, and this has been borne out over and over again, that non-GMO, high quality soy, not only should you not avoid it, but you should really add it to your diet. It does so many good things in the body. The only thing with thyroid medication, soy, and there's a couple of other foods that can temporarily interfere with the uptake of your thyroid hormone. So I always say, we Hashi sisters, we are not breakfast smoothie takers. If we take, so I usually wake up early and take my thyroid medication about 5, 6 in the morning, and you want to give it a 4-hour window before you have soy protein and other, a few other foods in a similar category. So I love the shakes, anytime in the afternoon or evening, evening hot chocolate, that type of thing. So just give it a 4-hour window. But the same is true when it comes to your thyroid medication. You want to make sure, of course, that you're taking it apart from food. Wait at least an hour for coffee. Just make sure that you're setting yourself up for success. Your thyroid can go on a real roller coaster if you're not fully absorbing your thyroid medication. So that, besides the certain foods, it's food in general and coffee, other supplements, other medications, you want to take those apart from. But I also want to mention, with this quote about the protein powder, that Juice Plus Complete has a perfect score of 1.0. So, there's lots of protein powders on the market, but some of them have some, unfortunately, pretty inflammatory ingredients. So you want to, check that with what you're trying to accomplish in your thyroid journey. So a lot of these common SHRED 10 results, they kind of look like the symptoms, that we're trying to get rid of with thyroid disease. We want a healthier weight and better recovery from workout, improved sleep, energy, hair, skin, and nails, regularity, mental clarity. That would be, sounds like, a dream come true for a lot of us who have been struggling with thyroid symptoms for a long time. And that's something I've definitely been so thankful for over the past couple of years. And, and it's a result of detoxifying the body and getting the right nutrients in. So I will end with this quote that reminds us that unlike drugs, nutrients don't have rapid effects. There's no quick fix. The business of nutrition is to build a better body. This process has to wait on nature to turn over body cells. A blood cell lasts about 120 days, 4 months. In 3 to 4 months, your whole blood supply is completely replaced. In 6 months, almost all the proteins in your body die and are replaced, even the DNA of your genes. When you start feeding it better, you have to wait on your body to grow new improved cells. So we know that there's no quick fix, but we also know that when we give our bodies what the fuel that they need, and there was a quote in my functional medicine class that I always come back to: you have to heal the cell to get well. If the cells stay inflamed, then they don't hear the message even of your thyroid hormone. So you can be taking thyroid medication, and it can be circulating around in your blood, but if your cells are inflamed, then they're not actually going to get the message and get what they need. So we've got to, heal the gut and heal all of the body's cells through the right nutrition. So if a lot of that, as I mentioned, if it's overwhelming to think of where to start in terms of lifestyle, start with the easy button, which is, flood your body with this plant-based nutrition, and join the community that, can help you support, and stay accountable to your goals. And the person that invited you to this, they care a lot about you, and they will be able to point you in the right direction as far as how to get the fruit and veggie capsules, the omegas, the Tower Garden, the shakes. I do it all, and it all, helps so much in terms of just keeping me feeling at my best energy wise. And I, also think that if you're looking for a health community that can hold you accountable, the person who invited you can also invite you to explore that and how you can get more involved in our healthy living community and the SHRED 10. And, so I would say, maybe private chat if they're on this call, private chat them right now and, say, I want more information. They can also put you in touch with me if you want more information about just the thyroid in general, and, working with a program to try and start to reverse the damage on your thyroid and get it moving in the right direction. But definitely consider nutrition and the easiest way to get it in your body instantly. So thanks everybody for joining us. Really appreciate your time, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. All right, take care.
Thank you.
Sure. I'm gonna stop.